welcome to this video. Thanks for clicking on the play button. I'm here in the Peak District and I'm going to do a review, well not so much a review, just to share my experience, shall we say, of a tent that I was sent a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week ago, freebie to me by Nightcat Outdoor. It's a one-man tent, it's a one-man ultralight backpacking tent. Comes in about 950 grams, maybe something like that. So pretty lightweight. And tested it out last week. For those who follow me on the Instagram account, that's yonder.outdoors. I put a few pictures up in a little short video. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to sort of use it in anger, as it were, in the Peak District, and I'm going to give it a go and see how it goes. So here, this is the tent here. This is tiny tent. I've had this out once and packed it up again, a bit tighter lengthways. So it's probably about 30 centimetres by 12 centimetres, something like that. So it's not massive at all. It's tiny, and it's light as a feather, as I said earlier on. So I'm going to try and set this up now in less time than it took me the first time as well. Still a bit breezy here, so I think we're getting about sort of 25-mile-an-hour winds gusting. So hoping that calms down a bit later on. We shall see. So I've set the tent up, and wind's moderate, and it's flapping a bit, but it's fine, absolutely fine. So it took me about, like I said, about 5 minutes-ish to set up the tent basically, and then just a bit of tweaks here and there, everywhere. I've pointed out a few things to watch. One of them is, in terms of how to start off, make sure you guy out the base first, and thankfully the length of the base guys is pretty much preset, so as long as you get that right on all four corners, then you're good to go really. Next stage is you then attach the fly straps for each corner onto those pegs. Simple. Don't worry about tightening them up, they're fine as they are, just leave them with plenty of slack on them. You'll tighten them up later on. Then what to do is you then get this pole at 120 and you stick it straight up there, so it's the pointy side down. There's a little bit of a grommet down here to fit it in, so it's dead straightforward. And try and get that, I suppose, as vertical as you possibly can. And then from there you then literally tie out this front guy which attaches to the base of the fly and also to the apex of the TP. Fairly straightforward really, to be honest. There's a couple of tensioners. There's, the kind of like line lock tensioners, which are glow in the dark, for if that matters, just in case you want to trip over your tensioners in the middle of the night. Well, avoid it. And then the rest is down to going around and just repositioning the pegs, making sure they're at an angle, because these pegs are quite small. They're kind of like a mini MSR groundhog, which are fine. This ground is a little bit soft, so I'm going to make sure that they really are driven into the ground, but make sure that it's an angle, because otherwise it'll just pull them straight out again. I think if I was using this in more challenging conditions, I'd probably bring my MSR groundhogs a bit more strength, a bit more security. But these are fine, and they're super lightweight, and they've got a little tag on them to ensure you can find them when you bury them in the ground. So that's it really. The inside is all mesh. So this is classed as a 3-season tent. So I mean, this is the middle of winter. It's now January in the UK. It's probably, I don't know, close to 0 at the minute. So technically this isn't for that kind of weather, but hey ho, as long as it doesn't snow in the night, the weather forecast is looking pretty good. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The headroom wise, it's decent. You know, it's enough room to move about, enough room to sit up, as I'm doing now. And lengthwise, it's excellent actually. I'm not sure, I'll put the dimensions on the screen, but the length is decent. I mean, if I was taking this out in the summertime with a smaller bag, I've got a 60-litre bag today, but if I was taking it out in the summertime, to be honest, I could probably fit like a 35-litre, 40-litre bag just in one end of the tent without having to use the vestibule. And the vestibule itself is massive, really. I'm not sure I would cook in it because this material is 15D sil nylon, PU coated sil nylon, so I think it would probably go up in flames. It is strong though. It's ripstop fabric, and it's seam sealed. I know some of these Chinese tents don't come with the seam seal already done, so you've got to do it yourself. So that's a bonus actually, because I'm rubbish at doing seam sealing. Make a right mess of it. Looks like I've done a terrible DIY job. So the seam sealing is a great bonus. What else can I say? Looks all right actually for the money. I think on their website at the moment it's £130, which I think is a brilliant price. And if you buy more of them, if you fancy selling them to some mates or buying them as a group, then it's a little bit less than that. So, but hey, it's good. So I've got this on super wide on the GoPro, so you can see a bit more. But don't be fooled. It's making it look palatial in here. It's not bad though. It's a decent size for a one-man tent. There's obviously your square area, but then there's a space here where you can put some gear. I've got a couple of dry bags there, and yeah, I think not bad at all really. I think this compares well to things like the OEX Bobcat, which is a one-man tent. Very similar inside. Perhaps this is a little bit bigger actually, because you've got this little apex here, which gives you a bit more space. I think the one drawback with the Bobcat, I mean there's plenty plus points by the way, is that you can feel quite claustrophobic inside it, because it literally is a rectangle, and this side here can be in your face or whatever, so it's quite floppy. Whereas this, you can see, is reasonably well tensioned actually, and there's a good space between that and the fly as well. So all in all, I think this is a better inner than the Bobcat as well. You can see that it's reinforced in the corners as well. Gives you extra strength when you get a bit too enthusiastic with the going out. So my setup, I'll give you my setup. So my setup, here I've got the Alpkit Pipe Dream 600. That's comfortable down to -12, it says. I've had this down to -10, and yeah, I was comfortable, so that's a good sleeping bag. Lightweight, down sleeping bag. This is unmistakably the Neo Air X-Therm. Absolutely fantastic piece of kit. And then I just got a decathlon mat under there just to have a bit of extra comfort, and just to protect the mat as well. Okay, wrapped up and warm. Dark now, it's very cold. I don't know how cold it is. Must be, I don't know, -1 maybe, something like that. Just having dinner. Wind's picked up quite a bit actually. I think it's supposed to be topping out about, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night, so hopefully I'll be asleep by then. Tent's doing well, and my stomach's doing well as well. It's a couple of years since I've been out here. I think maybe it was not last Christmas, it was the Christmas before. I came out in my MSR Elixir, and I think I might have come here with my son last year maybe. I don't know, I'll have to look back on my Instagram to see when it was. Great spot next to the river, filter water if you want to. Not too far from the car to get back in. I'm at work tomorrow morning, so yeah, hopefully a good night's sleep is ahead. I brought the earplugs because it's going to be a little bit breezy. Good morning. So it's about 6:45 in the morning. Leave early, as they say. It's still pitch black. Last night was really good. The weather didn't let up. In fact, it stayed blustery all night. Rained a bit, so it put the tent to a reasonably good test, I would have said. Certainly for a 3-season tent. Stood up well. I checked all the guidelines in the morning, all in place. The tent was obviously still coming in on one side where the wind was continually hitting it. But apart from that, you know, for condensation wise, basically no condensation whatsoever. You can probably put that down to the weather, in the sense that the wind would have probably kept it well ventilated. But I mean, that said, fair enough. I mean, I've been in some of my other tents where it's been like that, and it's absolutely soaking wet inside. So the only bit of condensation actually was just next to my foot box and the sleeping bag. Just got the sleeping bag slightly wet. So, you know, that's a pretty good result, I think, for this time of year and for this kind of condition. Overall then, I think one other thing to mention is, and this is similar to every other kind of TP tent, trekking pole tent, because the trekking pole itself, the pointed end, the sharp end, goes into the ground, into a grommet. As you tension up the tent, I've noticed on this soft ground, obviously it starts to sink into the ground. So when I looked at the inner, where there's a little bit of webbing that's attached to the grommet, that's attached to the inner, that starts to sink into the ground as well. So I just wonder whether or not over time that might cause some stress on the inner, because it's quite a delicate fabric. The other, the mitigator is basically just put like a rock under it or a piece of wood under it, something like that. That's just me being picky, but just to safeguard the tent inner for the long term, I suppose. But other than that, it's a lot of this filming's been in the dark because it's winter. You know, we're wild camping. It's arrived late-ish, leave early, so I just arrived in enough time to film the setup of the tent. Really, that's about it. The rest is in the dark. So hopefully you can pick this up, and hope you've enjoyed listening to my ramblings about this tent.